there,
see.
and their labor laws up here. I'm like, wow, like this is different.
It's like, what? You're not trying to take advantage of my labor? Excuse me?
Yeah, Minnesota is different here press-wise too. There's a lot more outlets out here.
That's what I noticed too.
A lot of black-owned newspapers throughout the country are like dying off. They're not publishing as much. So like the Cincinnati Herald is on its way. The black-owned newspaper in Richmond, Virginia, they just went bankrupt last week.
Dude, really?
Yeah, black-owned newspapers are
This whole, I mean, even at not just newspapers. I just seen a post from like the Pan-African Studies chair at Louisville University. He said they're trying to like almost dissolve the graduate program or something like that. Like basically lead towards each other. It's like not only the black-owned newspapers, which were already kind of struggling to get the people they needed and the resources they needed in Virginia and there, but now it's like everything. During Black History Month.
Yeah, and then like the Washington Post, when they had their layoffs, like half of them are black staffers. That was in even like stats from the Washington Post's writers guild.
Right.
And writers of color laid off, and that Washington Post was laid off. And then their only black columnist that they had at the Post, she was laid off because she was something about Charlie Kirk on her personality. The union did stick up for her. Well,
buried her. But then, even then, still, the fact that they got rid of her and all those staffers there where there's already a lack of journalists of color in media across the nation, across the world. It's just I can only hope it gets better. When I, especially hearing of like other papers folding, it just like it's just sad. If anything, we need more of those now.
Yeah, because it used to be back in like before I was even born, it used to be like the St. Paul, Minneapolis-St. They were like split newspapers, and then they merged, and then it's going good right now. We'll see here in the future because like a lot of these black-owned newspapers, there's no like owner that's gonna like buy up the newspapers for whatever reason. Like,
right.
There's no like I don't know who would.
turn. Yep,
Okay.
I did.
Okay, cool.
I knew that you were right there, and that you. Are they right there?
I didn't see them, but someone came by and said,
There you go. All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
check, 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 check.
Oh, you could.
No, they probably won't come up for 45 minutes.
He was really just hot.
They just had to get up and go to the bathroom or something.
Does anybody know the rules when a congressional rep tours a facility like this? Is there a required 24-hour notice?
I don't know if it's 24 hours.
Or is that some Chrissy note just saying?
Well,
It's hard to
it
verify
was
shit.
it was either immediate or 24 hours, and then the Trump administration, I believe, said we need 7 days. And then a court ruled recently that no, they could do it the way they used to do it. But I don't know if it's 24 hours or immediate.
If I was like at the coast at the time, like, I would be wanting to cover like this facilities down south. Because down south is like where everybody gets sent to get fast track and sent there. Judges are different down south. Really curious how bad the conditions are.
like, oh, wow, okay. It,
Yeah. Yeah.
Go Ducks! Mighty Ducks!
they had to listen to the budgets too, right? So the thing was basically he wasn't actually on that long.
No, he wasn't.
I had recently, because he just died, right? And so I am like, oh yeah, let me look up, and how long was in because he was in the same, it was only for like less than 5 years.
So yeah. I think it was like 3 or 4.
So
He always had a heater in his hand. He had like bourbon or something like that. He had red socks.
it's like when you think about how much of an impact this last year was doing since 30 years ago, right? When network TV was
Right.
because some of the shows that we see, that you watch shows, I'm like, oh, this is it. Yeah, this is I'm not supposed to so you walk around with a camera.
He'll be scrolling through Netflix. Oh, let's see if I can watch this. Oh my god, that was amazing.
But some of these networks, for some reason, the show got canceled. It's gone for 4 years.
And it's like 4 years of this show.
Do me a favor. Give me a quick mic check.
Yeah, sure. If anyone needs a mic check.
You coming up?
No, I mean, I'm here. Test this 1, 2, 10, 9, 8. All right, sweet. Thanks.
They are getting ready.
Still good.
Up to you.
That should be on the
Still have a job.
vacation or illness.
Wait, I didn't know you did that.
I tried to put my
Oh.
When I was a kid,
Oh, okay.
they're making their way this way.
I think that's the trade-off is like non-humid weather because I went back to Ohio for 6 months and I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with this summer weather here? I'm like, I shouldn't really bitch about the cold part. It's bad. Like it just humidity's like
all the humidity. It's all the humidity.
I was like, I guess I'll just like tough it out for like 8 months or whatever the cold weather duration is up here. And God bless those summers. Because I think even when it hits 90, it doesn't feel like 90.
I think they thought she was coming out.
It's a big they've had some humid summers, but
Yeah.
not as bad as like Ohio and Kentucky or yeah, it's just different. Especially those years when the cicadas are back in Ohio. Something about when they're back and it's hot makes it feel even hotter.
That's like a bad omen. Cicadas.
Here we go again.
It's a summer version of like the groundhog. It's wrong.
Do we stop when we started?
Oh, so it's gonna be that kind of summer.
Yeah.
That summer.
I've noticed Ohio has like a lot of good bugs, but like up here, I didn't see like any like I just like it's weird like West Ohio has like a ton of bugs. And like the park version like there's some like weird places.
Only guess maybe it's cold here versus there.
Yeah.
Maybe they can't survive at home. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my guess at least. That'd be surprising.
I know.
everybody.
Good afternoon. I'm Congresswoman Ilhan Omar here with Congresswoman Angie Craig. This was an attempt at us doing our congressional duty and performing oversight at the Whipple Federal Building. We were finally, this was the third time try for Congresswoman Craig. My second attempt, we were finally let in. We were given a full and complete tour of the facility. And you know, the objective of this oversight was always to be able to come in at any moment to see what is taking place at these detention facilities and how people are being treated. When they instituted the 1 week notice, we knew that things were going to be different. And we weren't surprised at what we saw today. We went into the facility and there was not a single detainee that we could see or talk to. Every cell, every inch of it was completely empty. And when we'd asked, why isn't there anyone here? Because we obviously know they've been detaining people. They said the last people left at 11:30. It seems a little too convenient, knowing that our scheduled visit was going to be at 12 p.m., that the last detainees would be transported out of the facility at 11:30. We know that our colleague, Senator Tina Smith, also had a scheduled meeting today, where she also was told that the detainees left a little before she got there, and there was a possibility some might come in after she leaves. We've been told that on average, as the search has been drawn down, they are getting about 20 a day detainees that they are picking up. They have not picked up any observers in the last couple of days and held them in this facility. The facilities seem to be clean and orderly. And again, you know, I wouldn't be surprised with having the level of notification that we were supposed to give about our arrival, that things were arranged in that way. There's more we want to say, but I will give my colleague Angie Craig to give a few of the other updates that we've heard.
So thank you so much. And yes, it was the first time that I've been allowed into the facility. It seems very convenient that they removed anyone who had been arrested today from the facility 30 minutes before we arrived at the facility. And this is why members of Congress, under our congressional duty, and why we are challenging the new policy on the part of this administration, that it is illegal to require us to give 7 days notice. What we saw today was an incredibly clean facility. It was a facility without a single individual being held in it. And this is precisely why in the appropriations law in this country, we have written, and Donald Trump has signed, that members of Congress can ask to be allowed into these facilities with absolutely no notice. So I'm glad we got in today to be able to see the facility itself. But at the end of the day, this is not the intent of the law. And once again, Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security is violating the law. Now, what we were also told is that there are under 500 ICE agents remaining in Minnesota. That's off of the 3,000 surge that we saw here. There are HSI agents in addition to that. We were told that they are averaging now only 20 arrests per day, and that they are moving those individuals to the 4 essentially county jails in order to hold them. What we saw today was very, very different than what the state has experienced under Operation Metro Surge. We were also told today, and constitutional observers should hear this, that if you ask an ICE agent to identify themselves, they should tell you their badge number. Their badge number. We were told that absolutely racial profiling should not occur in the state of Minnesota. We know racial profiling has occurred and is occurring. My own brother-in-law was racially profiled just a few weeks ago. So I would say they are supposed to tell you their badge numbers. So certainly we observe the drawdown is occurring. They are back to, on average, only 2 deportation flights per week from Minnesota, supposedly. But as we've been saying from the start, we will take everything we're told with a grain of salt, and we will only believe things when we see them here as this operation winds down.
We'll take any questions if you have.
Jerry Michael Media here. Just a quick question. If what you found out today proves to not be accurate, what are the next steps forward? I know some people have been out here the last few mornings. They've counted hundreds of vehicles pulling in every morning. So I'm just curious your thoughts on how you proceed from there.
Yeah, I believe I speak for both of us when I say we are committed to continuing to hold ICE and DHS in general accountable. You know, as the Congresswoman said, I believe it when I see it. We have always asked for proof. We are going to continue to challenge the idea that we need notice in order for us to do our oversight duties. We want to be able to be back to the regular process that we are constitutionally allowed to carry out, which is to just show up and be allowed access, because the idea is that nothing should happen in the darkness in America to subvert people's civil liberties. And we know, you know, I've been doing oversight quite a lot. And we know oftentimes when some of these facilities know that you are coming, there is a cleanup. We know that they're going to work really hard to make sure that there is nothing for us to see and there is nothing for us to report. But what we want in this country is truth and honesty. There is already a loss of trust in federal law enforcement, and we want to make sure that people have trust in those that are supposed to carry out the laws of this land. And we can't do that if we are not given the kind of access we are allowed under the Constitution.
I would just also add that I think based on what we saw today, we'll be asking the Department of Homeland Security to provide in writing what they told us verbally today, just to make sure that we have all of these things covered.
Your representative, when you say that you were told this information today, that you said 500 ICE agents left from the surge, who are you attributing that to? Is the field office commander in there? Is Tom Homan in there? Who actually told you this information?
Yeah, Tom Homan is back in Washington, so we were told. He's no longer here, so the acting director was here today, and he gave us this particular information. You know, I hear that Homan made some remarks about the timeline for the drawdown, perhaps earlier today. The acting director would not verify that the director would not actually verify that information to us. But look, what we saw in there today is clearly from the height of Operation Metro Surge, there has been a drawdown. I don't know how we marry that with specific information we're getting from our districts, where just this week we have heard that there are agents staging near Spanish immersion schools in Minnesota. We were told specifically that ICE agents have been directed, do not stage near a hospital, a school, or a place of worship. So if citizens see this happening, we made sure that we have a line of communication today. Ask those badge numbers, get them to your member of Congress or our 2 U.S. senators, and we will do everything in our power to hold those agents accountable. Their leadership is telling us they have to tell you their badge number. They're telling us they should not be staging in these sensitive locations. They're telling us that they should not be racially profiling Minnesotans. If that is happening in Minnesota, you better bet we are going to take it on all the way and make sure that people are held accountable.
Question.
Do you plan to visit another time after this one as well?
Yes, you know, we will continuously make attempts. You know, we're also interested at looking at some other detention centers where some of our constituents might be detained. I'd also talk to them about possibly visiting some of these county jails where people are detained. They promise that they'll give me a list. They'll give us a list of the people that are detained in those 4 county jails, so that we can see if any of our constituents are in there, and then make the proper request to have a visit with them.
I have a question. As I'm activist underscore Dare, I'm an independent person, activist also. I'm a legal observer. So for me to come to my community, so what should I to go back out to my community and let them know we are safe to legal observe them without any obstruction from them or any violence, because I personally have been violated by these agents.
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. Obviously, we asked about that. I think it is important for people to continue to exercise their constitutional rights. You know, we do not want people to engage with ICE or Border Patrol in any sort of violent way. We want everybody to remain safe. So if you are able and want to observe and record them from a distance, so that you are able to get that information in case they are acting unlawfully, that is something that we should all continue to do to keep one another safe. What they've told us is that they want us to help them make sure that accountability is carried out. They told us to let them know if people are witnessing folks staging at hospitals, schools, and places of worship. They also told us that, you know, the door-to-door, the randomness of you know, multiple masked agents with paramilitary weapon is not something that we should be seeing. So if you are observing that, please document it and reach out to our offices so that we can provide that information to them. If you interact with an ICE agent and they are refusing to provide their badge number, please record that interaction, document that interaction, let us know. Because we were frank with them about the fact that, you know, there hasn't been accountability for the lawlessness that we have been seeing. There hasn't been transparency from these federal law agents in us understanding who you are and what, you know, you're doing in our communities and why are we being terrorized. You know, they objected to the idea that people have been disappeared. We explained to them, you know, it is our job when, you know, community members cannot be located, for us to look at the ICE locator and see if people are in there. And there's been, you know, many a times when we look and we can't find any of them. When we reach out to ICE's office or HSI and ask them, you know, can you give us information? They send us to their liaisons in Washington, D.C. That is not how normal operations used to take place here. That is not the standard in which they interact with congressional offices. And we were very frank about that. And they told us they do agree that is not the way things are supposed to happen. And they are very much interested going forward in going back to regular conduct. And we will hold them accountable to that.
The tone they are using, right, is very different than the height of Operation Metro Surge.
Yeah.
But are the actions they're using different? And so that's what, as a community, we have to continue to hold them accountable. And we made it absolutely clear under no uncertain premise that they need to completely draw down from Minnesota, that until these agents stop targeting and terrorizing our neighbors, that we are going to keep coming back. And frankly, what we saw today, we are going to make sure it will take court action, that our authority to show up and observe what's happening without 7 days of notice for them to get ready and move everybody out before we walk through the door. We're not going to stop until those rights because they are responsibilities are restored to members of Congress.
Thank you all.
Really quickly, is there a kitchen facility on site here? How do they feed these?
There is a room where food prep is on the wall. We were not able to go into that part of the building, but we were told now that the numbers have declined so that they are moving people out of this facility on average within 6 hours, and that 12 hours is maximum to a different holding facility. So we know that was not the case at the height of Operation Metro Surge. Again, this felt more like normal activity in Minnesota than what we have been experiencing, but again, we're not going to believe it until we fully can see it and feel it, not just us, but our constituents reporting back to us.
We witnessed children being released in t-shirts. What's your view on
Go
that?
ahead.
I'm sorry, something you said earlier about, your district. Is it your sense that some of these operations are busier outside the metro than they were before, that it's shifted?
Yeah, I think we certainly have reports in my congressional district, in the suburbs, in the exurbs, that instead of traveling in caravans through the cities, that they are doing more targeted actions in the suburbs, as well as simply sitting in the suburbs, waiting to find someone who happens to be a person of color. Those reports actually have increased since the drawdown. So that is my sense. Again, it's anecdotal from my constituents, but we certainly have not seen the cessation of these activities, and in fact it very much feels like some have just moved out into the suburbs.
Yeah. And for me, what I communicated to them is just how incredibly challenging it's been for cities like Columbia Heights, for Fridley, where they are staged at essentially every single school. And the Sam Olson, who's the director here, told me that shouldn't be happening. And so I look forward to providing some of that information to him directly as we see it carried out in real time. But I also told them that in Minneapolis, a lot of our schools are operating at 30% attendance because so many families are mortified. Our churches, especially Catholic churches, have seen a reduction of 80% of their parishioners. This is not a way for people to carry out their normal lives, and the disruption is not just to our businesses, but it's just like daily activity, and it is not something that we want to continue to see, and it is not something that we're gonna just take their word when they say that we shouldn't be seeing that anymore.
Well, and I would just add, before I came here today, I held a forum with members of the AAPI community. So just remember, we have a broad, diverse set of neighbors in Minnesota, from Somali Minnesotans to Hispanic Minnesotans to members of the AAPI community, and in every single community we are hearing business reduction of 80% plus, and schools 50% absences or going online. And we know the level of lost learning that is occurring in these communities. Teachers across the entire state are doing their level best to make sure that these students have access to learning. But I think we are just beginning to start to understand as a state the widespread implications of Operation Metro Surge, not just at the human level, but at the state level as well. So thank you so much.
Can you comment on that?
The last one.
When did you give, thank you. When did you give notice? And I just want to make sure you did not see any detainees.
No, we gave notice 8 days ago. We got confirmation yesterday that we were going to be allowed in, and the last detainee was taken out at 11:30 a.m., 30 minutes before we were set to arrive.
What about the children who were released in t-shirts on Wednesday?
And we also did ask, how many people came through today, which is why it felt convenient that no one was there. They said 10 when we first got there, and 10 were gone. And then they said there were another 5. And so I circled back and I said, can we go and see the 5 that are here, because we have privacy release forms? And they said, no, we cannot permit you to go into the cell to see the detainees. And I said, well, we don't need to go into the cell. We can, put the forms, slide them in, and then we can look through the glass and see what their conditions look like. And then they oohed and ahed for a little bit, and then conveniently, as they were taking us towards the cell, someone said, there's not a single person left, and they took us into an empty cell.
Yes.
So it's just the timeline and the stories seem very convenient for what they really were working very hard for us not to see and witness. But thank you all.
Can you
Thank you.
comment on the
Thank
Supreme
you.
Court decision?
Thank you for asking that last question. I was curious if there was any,
What are you talking? Oh, thanks. Yeah.